Second JB5s Mystery Challenge, Day 4 Technique. This is Day 4 of the second JB5s Mystery Challenge. Day 4 techniques are where we get to develop the theme with images and words, and we duplicate the letter shape on the first page to the inside. Today we're going to work on Day 4 of our second JB5s Mystery Challenge. On Day 1, we chose a letter and drew it out on the page with a border. On Day 2, we collaged text on the back of the letter and on the border of the front of the letter. On Day 3, we distressed. Oh my, we distressed. I really love that technique. We also painted the front of the letter, and we trimmed out the negative spaces in the letter and collaged it down to the second page that we are using. So now we're ready for Day 4. You might have guessed that on Day 4 we are going to work on the inside pages, but also we are going to work on the back. So let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is work on the back. Now, I have chosen my theme because I used a small a and it went to the dictionary, and I just happened to land in the architecture. And I really like these two little images that I used when I collaged down on my pages. So my theme, I did not plan it that way, but my theme became architecture. And I'm really not an architecture person. I really do not dwell a lot on it. Not that I don't like it, it's just not where I normally go. I was at either a garage sale or a thrift store. I don't know where I got these. A whole stack of old house journals. I can guarantee you I probably paid less than $1 for them. But they came from the Department of Landscape Architecture. They're dated like in the 1980s, 1983, 1986. And I put them away in my storeroom thinking I'd probably never use them. Ha! I needed something that represented architecture, so I went searching without going out and buying. And lo and behold, I found these. I'm going to show you two pages that I pulled out. One that attracted me was this, a pergola sketchbook. Anything that has sketchbook on it draws my attention. And it's got all these different styles of pergolas, all these sketches. And look at the type in these old home journals. It's like a Times Roman typewriter font, and I really like that. So the more that I look through these, look at this, repairing pocket doors, just fun illustrations. There's some stenciling secrets in here. So I'll be using these a lot more. They'll become a go-to for me, I think. So I chose this one, the pergola, to put on the back. But I also like this one because it's got on this side it's got an English revival home, and I like that kind of a cottage rooftop. I really do like that. It is a pen and ink illustration, and I love that. And next to it is an illustration that it's illustrating a modern metropolis where rapid transit lines emanate from the city center to the outlying suburbs. Look at those. So what I'm planning to do with these is put them so that I'll have to cut them, but I want them to peek through my negative spaces. I'll have to trim this down so I can get it more into it. But I'm going to put one up here and one down in here. So I'm going with that. Then on the front, we're going to work on all sides of our page today. On the front, what I want you to do is think about the letter that you chose and the theme, where your theme may be going. I want you to look for a quote I found a quote. There's a lot of sites online where you can Google for quotes. I like to go to Brainy Quote and Goodreads, and I'll put a link to those in the description box below. But I looked for the word architecture, and I found this quote by Johann von Goethe, and it says, "I call architecture frozen music." So I will be putting that quote inside of this letter. I don't want to destroy my distressing. Don't destroy the distress. So I will be putting it in here in some fashion. So I'm going to be working on the quote on the front. And because of that quote refers to frozen music, look what I found. Of course, in my stash again, this melange tissue paper from Tim Holtz has music and architecture. How appropriate. So that will also be going on the inside. One last thing, and this is for inspiration. If you happen to have stamps that will go with your theme, that fit together with your page, please use them. I found this set of architecture stamps by Stampin' Up! A year or so ago at a thrift store. I could not pass them up. These are too nice of stamps. I think I paid $4 for the set. So I will be using these on here too as I work on it. Now, all of that said, will we have anything left to do on day 5? We sure will. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to go into fast forward. If I need to explain along the way, I will either do a voiceover or I will put little text captions in the video. So I'm going to get started and you can watch. I start off on the back page by tearing the margins off of this pergola sketchbook illustration. I really like this. I put matte medium on both sides, and then I glue it down, and I'm smoothing out the air bubbles with a plastic card and my brayer and trimming it off. Now I'm putting down that piece of Tim Holtz melange tissue paper. I really like it because it has the architecture and the music on it. It just really fits on this page. And then I just smooth it down again. A little strip left over there. I just glue it down too. Making sure I have all the air bubbles out using my brayer. Making sure everything's nice and glued down. Now I'm trimming off those pictures that I found in the Ode Home journal. And I'm just gluing them down so they'll show through the negative space when I do the flip of that A. English Revival House, and then the center of a city with the traffic emanating out to the suburbs. Trimming off the page. Now I'm going to work on the A on the first page, and I start out by outlining, and look how I take care of that extra line down there. Just fill it in with I'm using a big market marker. And I'm just tracing around the outside of the A just to make it stand out a little bit better. I really enjoyed doing the distressing on this page. On that alphabet letter. I'm really happy with how that turned out. Now I'm tracing around the negative spaces and along the outside. And when I do that, when I flip it open, it'll make an A on the inside of the page. So I take my Ranger Distress Fluid dye and color that in. So I've got an A on the inside, the exact shape of the one that's on the front of the page. I really like how that turned out. That was all unplanned, by the way. Now I'm going to write down my quote, and look, I don't like that capital I up there. But I go ahead and I sketch in the rest of the quote, and oops, I spelled architecture wrong. And here's how I resolve it. Because that marker is a permanent marker, because I've already distressed this page, I just distress it some more. And then I spell it correct, I think. But I'm not happy with that capital I. So I think that I can distress that, and I just peel it off. And here's where I go wrong. I get out some Black Magic Higgins ink, and I forget that my page is still wet, so that ink just starts to flow. And I'm really unhappy with that. I tried to dry it, and I don't like it at all. But I go ahead and use that Black Magic ink on my other lettering on my page just to help it stand out. And I'm kind of thinking of what can I do to fix that capital I. And here's what I come up with. I have some of that dictionary page paper left, and it still has an illustration on it, so I glue it down over my big mistake and use the Ranger Distress Stain. Yes, that's working out. It's blending right in. I'm really happy with what's happening there. Trim it off. And then I do the outlines, and it looks like it just belongs. And I did a small I, and I'm much, much happier with it. This is a quote by Johann von Goethe. I call architecture frozen music. I really like that quote. Now I'm outlining my A again with that Black Magic around both the inside and the outside. And I'm drying it off, but you'll see that when I flip the page, oh, it's smeared. But because I used that gel medium on it, I can just wipe it right off. And then I just give it another coat of the Distress Fluid Dye. That's Blue Denim. It's by Ranger. I'm really happy with this page. Now I'm going to work on the back, and I want to distress the back of this page. So what I'm going to do is use that Blue Denim Ranger Fluid Dye again on the back. And then I want it to mute it a little bit more, so I'm using some white gesso over it. And I really am liking how this is turning out. I'm going to work on this more on day 5, so I'm just preparing it for day 5. Happy with how this is turning out. Now I am giving it a coat of clear gesso because, as I said, I'm going to work on this on day 5, and I'm just prepping it. Day 4 is finished. We did a lot on day 4. Look how this has changed. First of all, we chose our images to put collage on the back and on the inside, and we chose a quote to write on the top. Now my quote was not very long. If you can find a shorter quote, it depends on your letter. Kind of figure out how you're going to put it inside of your letter. This is a quote about architecture. I found it on Brainy Quote. Another good place to get quotes is Goodreads. I'll put links to both of those in the description box below. I also chose 2 pictures to put in so that they'd show through the negative space that would relate to my theme, which turned out to be architecture. You see, I still have my dictionary page here, and I still have the architecture elements here on my border. I used some Tim Holtz melange tissue paper because the quote says, I call architecture frozen music, and I need to put his reference, his name up here. I'll do that tomorrow. But this Tim Holtz melange paper happened to have an architectural element and a music element, and I thought that fits perfectly. The other thing we did was we did a lot of collaging of our elements. I collaged these elements in, and then I brought out this letter, this small a that's on the first page, by outlining around it and outlining so that the outline would show on the inner side. So that meant that I outlined around my negative spaces here. And then when you flip the page, I brought those lines into the positive space of here to form the A, and then these are picked up from the first page. It's kind of interesting how that A on the first page is replicated on the second page. If you can do something like that, it's a very fun technique. Now I left these in black and white. I like the contrast between the blue of the A, the blue of the A on the front, and the black and white architectural elements that I pulled out of that old house magazine. On the back, I distressed the back again with that Ranger Distress Fluid dye, and then I put some white gesso over it to lighten it up a little bit more, and then when that was fairly dry, I put a coat of clear gesso over it. If you don't have clear gesso, you can use a glue or a medium. You kind of have to use your own judgment on what you have in your supplies. I like the clear gesso because it will receive whatever media that I put on it. I will probably be using my food ball pen on it tomorrow. But if you're using a clear gel or an acrylic based, it may not receive your ink as well. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. But I wanted to seal this in. This is a water-based, and so I used a clear gesso over it to seal it in. I tried to leave the distressing here on the front. So this is where we are after day 4. I've outlined using my Higgins Black Magic ink to outline this letter, just to bring it out a little bit more, to make it pop a little bit more. So this is where we are at the end of day 4. I'll be doing more on this side tomorrow and doing more on this side, and we will be putting some finishing touches on our page. I hope that you've enjoyed this. This has come out, for me, the result has been far better than I expected when I started this. I'm very happy with this page.